relative self is what reincarnates. And this is because the relative self is emptiness. That's what I said. Non-dual means that matter is voidness. Matter is emptiness. Matter is voidness. Voidness is matter, right? I read that sutra the other day, just a little bit of it. And we all chanted it together. And so the relative self is voidness. It isn't that the relative self is voided when you realize selflessness in that first phase of it, where one Lama I know really explained that very brilliantly. So our suffering is caused because our relational self has been trapped within our false construct of being an absolute self. And so when we discover by self-exploration the lack of an absolute self, the relative self is taken with it when it disappears. It's because it's been wrapped around it so long. It's been entangled with it. So it drags away the relative self, and we have an experience of disappearing. But that disappeared experience is not the absolute self. It is just the time when the absolute self disappears. And then the thing that returns from that experience of space like equipoise samadhi seems to return, or rather in a way, in that disappeared space, the differentiated objects seem to return. Eventually it sort of wears out as the barrier between that space like equipoise samadhi kind of wears out because of the drive of inquiry. Seeing the emptiness of emptiness, in other words, it wears out. And then the relative world is there, and you never left it. You, a relative being, can never be an absolute being. That's complete misuse of language. That is a deluded idea. The relative being is only absolute as a relative being, put it that way. And that's why compassion becomes the absolute, in a way. Wisdom has flattened down the world in such a way, in non-duality, that only the condition of the sensitivities in that non-dual world is the only thing of absolute concern, because there's no sense of wishing of being able to escape. So in the rebirth thing, they say, what is it that is reborn? Because that's a dualistic thinking, that there has to be some sort of unchanging thing that's kind of in the core string of the changing thing. And that's precisely the name of the delusion. As my old guru used to say, my Mongolian guru used to say, he said, everybody, there's two things he used to say, which I was going to do in that short form for you. And one of them is, people are not wrong thinking that they're real. Everybody is real. The problem is everybody goes around thinking they're really real. And so the change, the enlightenment, the discovery of the true nature of the self is that the relative self is free of having to be an absolute self. And so therefore one is just real and no more real than the other ones. And we're all equally real. And so our feelings are all of equal importance. It isn't that my feeling is more important than your feeling type of thing. You follow me? That's the compassion, love and compassion side. So what is reborn is the continuity of the relative self. And if we're really emptiness, if our absolute reality is emptiness, why are we here? It's the same question. Point is, the two reality theory is that there's a relative reality, and the non-duality is that the absolute reality doesn't destroy the relative reality. The absolute reality is what makes the relative reality relative by seeing that it is empty of any non-relative element, any part of it, including God, including the self, including anything, matter, mind, consciousness. There's no absolute thing in the relative. Any absolute thing is irrelevant to the relative, because the relative cannot encounter an absolute thing. But that's the word. The word is a negation, absolute, not to be in solution with. Do you follow me? Infinite, these are all negations. Emptiness is a negation. Even freedom is a negation, right? We say salt-free, sugar-free, trouble-free, pain-free, right? So that's the issue with reincarnation. And why therefore non-duality is a little bit biru bishanam, Nagarjuna said. Biru bishanam. Let's say terrifying to the timid or frightening to the timid. Because we experience our relationality as so much suffering. Our head is crushed in the birth canal, the mother is terrible pain and labor, then there's one trouble after another, and their teeth hurt, and they have to be pulled out, new teeth. I mean, we've experienced so much, then we're death, and we're afraid of future, unless we're materialists, and we write ourselves a free blank check of just being nothing, just by dying, and then it'll all be fine. Otherwise we're very afraid of what will happen after we die and lose control of ourselves. And so The idea that ultimate reality, the absolute, is all this relativity, and we're here forever, and we're here with everybody else forever, is frightening to the person who has suffered. And that's why it's Biru Bhishanam, the deepest teaching, Nagarjuna says. It's a little bit frightening. Bodhisadhanam, it is enlightenment in practice. It is, but my favorite is Shunyata Karuna Garbham, which means voidness of the womb of compassion. You can translate it as essence, but actually Garbha means womb also. So voidness, the womb of compassion. The idea that emptiness is kind of a sensitive membrane that contains all the relative beings, and that even you're Buddha, you're reborn. Even more, you're reborn for the sake of everyone, everywhere. Finally, non-duality, right, is inexpressible. It defeats the ability of dualistic languages, which include mathematics. Catherine was upset that I said mathematics was a language, but it is a language. It's just a very refined kind of language. So it defeats, it cannot be captured by it. And here is the wonderful verse of the future Buddha Maitreya, transmitted by the medium Sangha. He said that we do not say there is one Buddha, and we do not say there are many Buddhas. We don't say there are many Buddhas because at the Dharmakaya level, at the reality body level, they're all one. There's no difference between them, right? At that level. But that is really not different from what's called the Rupakaya level, which is the form body or the material body level, which includes subtle and coarse material body, which includes what's called the Sambhogakaya, the bliss body or beatific body, and the Nirmanakaya or the emanation body. And so each being who becomes a Buddha, having been ignorantly a separated individual, somehow still enjoys being one with all the other Buddhas individually, personally. They personally enjoy it. And they personally enjoy the process of liberating other beings and helping them through educating them. Unfortunately cannot just sort of bliss bomb them, but can get them to open themselves to their own understanding by teaching them in some way, or helping them in some way, reflecting to them something in some way. So it remains personal, and strangely. Although in a way, on the other hand, since it's non-dual, personal and impersonal, we don't want to get totally stuck in that duality, but we don't want to exclude only the personal and say there's some impersonal absolute there. You see, we don't want to say that.